Does your cello have a name?
Sort of. Like, I named it when I don't really know how I found the name. I always forget which key it is. Not that one.
Stand by for record.
With Desiree Sturrock.
You're listening to Pop Corn Forest.
Interesting too, because like, I mean, I think you can like safely say that probably anything is creative if you like, I don't know, think it is almost, like, I don't know, and like people practice self-expression and creativity in like any which way, and it doesn't have to like look a certain way to be it. But also it's funny because in my family, especially like, you know, like my core nuclear family, like I am the only one who like majorly is like very like artistic, like creative. And so it's funny to be like, where does that come from, and like what is the need for that, and like how come this wasn't necessarily like taught by you guys. I have a cow case for it. It's like this, you'll see, it's just like the back is just like cowhide.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that from 5th grade?
That is from 5th grade.
Wow.
I know. It's one of those things.
5th grade, you guys are really crafty and
Seriously.
into cool stuff, I think.
It's kind of crazy. I was like talking to I do a lot of, like, I have a program through the museum at St. Mary's called Cello in the Galleries. But I'm like expanding it this year, and I'm like pumped about it.
Ah,
I know.
Congrats.
It's gonna be like a huge improv fest, and I'm bringing in like poets and like dancers and other musicians. I'm super stoked. It's part of my like senior music capstone. I mean, maybe, you know, going to art school will just, and like developing during that time is naturally just gonna kind of like fuck your brain up a little bit and like be like, you have to do this.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like it's not a bad thing. I really am like happy, and it like the whole thing about like you're able to connect with people in like a just like a very different way. It's special, and like it's special to be able to do that. And I think like one of the really cool things about art is that like even if you have a specific meaning with like in creating something, that doesn't mean that somebody has to see the exact same thing, and they can have a meaning for it that is like totally not what you intended but still be meaningful for them, and that's beautiful and special. But also I feel like honestly like the way that I've taken my senior year, it's like all Jan term almost.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Just like random classes.
Will you do a brief rundown of your senior year one more time for us listeners?
Okay, so first off, I'm in seminar, the 4th seminar. St. Mary's has a seminar program. They're changing it. I think you only have to take 2 or 3 seminars, but they changed that recently, and so my year all has to take 4 seminars, which I like. I enjoy the seminars. Except sometimes. They're like, they can be very like just old Greek stuff. It's like a very classic, like they definitely rely on the classics and like the canon. And sometimes that's fun, but sometimes I'm like, this is like so boring. But there's good stuff in there. You just have to be patient, I think. So I'm taking that. I'm taking a class called Museums and the Other, and it's talking about I mean, some of it is just like a museum studies class that's like kind of introducing us to like what are all the different jobs within museums and like different careers you can have, and like what does it sort of mean to work at a museum, and what do you do, and all of that. But the course description also talks about like kind of how do you have, or like museums in a modern context, like how are you able to kind of have it be something that's not like problematic and like what does it mean to display things, basically, especially things that are like cultural and not necessarily related to like the curator's culture, and like how do you find the right lens for that, basically, and like how much do you give to your audience and like explaining to them about like, you know, the context of what you're displaying versus like just displaying it and like giving nothing, and like what's basically the story that you want to make about having things displayed, sort of. And then I'm in an audio production class that, yeah, just basic audio production stuff.
How to use like a digital audio workstation, how to
Microphones,
record things.
recording, Pro Tools, all the good stuff. And then I'm in a stop motion animation class, but it's not really stop motion because it's only once a week and like that takes so long. And so it's more just animation.
Okay.
Which is a little deceiving, but also I'm sure it'll be fun. I animated a ball. Well, because I was like, stop motion, but it's just animation.
Your music was your minor, your major, or none?
It was my minor originally, but I think last year I switched it to it's called a split major at St. Mary's, and basically you just like are technically majoring in two things, but they like cut it down by a significant amount so you don't have to take as many classes in either of the like specific
Like
things.
full requirement
Yeah.
satisfaction, like, but you can still get a good chunk of.
Yeah.
Got you. That's cool. St. Mary's. I mean, I don't know anything about St. Mary's, so I was hoping to do some show notes on it later. But that's
Yeah.
cool that they have that option.
Yeah, no, it's really nice. They're pretty cool. They kind of let you do whatever if you have an idea. Yeah. I feel, well, okay, I went to an art school for high school, and it was cool, but also kind of somehow taught me that, like, the only thing that, like, I can artistically do is, like, play cello in a really intense setting and, like, you know, like, get first chair and, like, go to concerto competitions and, like, all of that. And so it's been really nice to be here and, like, to be able to just, like, chill out and, like, not have such high standards and kind of be able to figure out, like, what is it that I actually want and, like, what is it that I like. And I've been, the last couple of years, definitely, like, experimenting with a lot of different, like, art stuff and just seeing what I like the best. And I feel like stop motion and just, like, animation, I don't know, like, it's, like, a really nice way of storytelling. Like, I really like all of this stuff separately, like poetry and, you know, like making art, all of that. But when I put it together, like, it feels just like a lot more like coherent and just like, I don't know, like it just is something that I enjoy. And
Gardens, like, can you like source, like, I don't know, just.
like urban foraging classes, that would be cool.
Yeah. Where are the mushrooms at?
True. We have a professor here who does so much mushroom stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's cool. I've never worked with him though. He's an ecology guy. He does like newt research.
Really?
Yeah. There's a pond like up somewhere around there.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
A new pond.
Newt pond.
Wow, just newts, huh? Or
He just like, I think he just only cares about the newts. Like, I'm sure there's other stuff in there.
Yeah.
But it's like some specific type of newt that like apparently wasn't in the pond for a really long time and then like somehow came back and he was like, wow, this is crazy.
Huh.
So now he just like does newt research and like
Okay.
tags them and stuff.
and also has experience in foraging. But does he give any like foraging for college credit?
He used to teach a Jan term that was on
Oh.
yeah,
Wow, okay.
that was on mushroom foraging, but he hasn't taught it since I've been here. There's like pictures near his office. They look really old, but maybe one day. I took a class my freshman year. St. Mary's has this really weird program called Jan term, and so like for the month of January you just take one class.
Whoa.
It's really cool, and
St.
it's like
Mary's has got a lot of.
no, it's kind of awesome. It's really cool. They have a lot of cool things. So I took cinema activism in the environment my first year.
Cinema and
Activism in the environment. It was just like all the documentaries, and my final project was creating a documentary here. And then my second year, I took a class called Decadence in Venice, and I stayed in Venice for a month and just learned like all about art and like architecture and like museums and churches, so many churches, so much
churches,
architecture.
huh?
It was so crazy. Like I never thought that I would be like tired of seeing old things, but towards the end of it I was like, okay, like I get it, like they're churches, like cool.
They have decorations inside.
Yeah, like oh yeah, mural on the ceiling, cool. Like
Did you talk to Venetians at all about that? Like getting used to your, resplendent surroundings?
I honestly, like, I can be a very timid traveler. I get very self-conscious because I'm like, oh my god, I just, like, feel, I don't know, especially, like, being American. Like, I feel like every time I go abroad, I'm just like, I can't open my mouth. Like, I just, as soon as I open my mouth, I'll ruin everything. Which is just, like, not true.
But maybe there's something to unpack there about like geopolitics.
Yeah, like there's some truth to it in general, but also I kind of like forget that like I am a person outside of just being an American tourist.
That's a good theme.
Yeah, and that will definitely take learning, but I talked to a couple people in Venice. There was this one, I like found this random really cool store of this guy who like made just like really cool art and a bunch of like masks and like clay sculptures and cool things. And
how did you find the shop?
I was just like out exploring. I mean, Venice is pretty small, and because we were there for the whole month, like you really just like got to know where you were. It was really special.
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know that about Venice.
Yeah.
I know very little about it.
It was like...
But it's very superiorly walkable.
Super walkable. No cars. Like, it's all walkable.
Okay.
It's super close, and you can kind of... It's one of those places where you can literally walk anywhere, and eventually you'll be able to find, like, something where you know where you are. Like, it's just...
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's, like, good to get lost there because you can't get too
like,
lost.
actually lost. Yeah. Yeah. And also the signage is really good over there. I have, like, the worst sense of direction ever.
Okay.
Like, actually so terrible. But I only got lost there once when I was doing my laundry, which was kind of funny. But I wasn't even lost. I was just like, I have a destination. As soon as you have a destination, it's game over. Like, you're lost. But if you just, like, go and just let it happen, you won't be lost.
Got you. I was just thinking about how when I navigate places, most of the time I never have like the proper street names in my head. I just have landmarks, and I don't ever really like say them out loud. And so when you're saying like once you have a destination, I was like thinking like about how it like switches you into that frame of like start thinking about like maps and like data of like streets versus just like being like noticing your surroundings and how those two kind of like ways of thinking and being in the world kind of come together. But I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but that's like what, I don't know, kind of it triggered for me.
Yeah, no, definitely. The landmark thing, I also am like very much a landmark person, and like that just was, you could just like survive off of landmarks over there, which was very nice.
That is there more than one kind of like central piazza kind of area? Because I'm thinking of how I saw the film Italian Job, and it takes place in Venice, and now I'm wondering like I should send you a screenshot of like, is there more than one location that's just a big open space?
That's like the giant, they have like this like, it's like a palazzo, some like giant palace that this duke lived in. It's like Palazzo Ducale or something. And it's like the giant open, there's like a tower in the middle. Yeah, and like the big giant building, yeah.
It's like very iconic.
Yes,
Venice.
Yeah. That's like the middle of Venice. Like that's where the people go.
Okay.
Yeah. But like it was a giant palace. I think we went like twice maybe. you toured the palace, and it was like, okay, yeah, like there's gold everywhere and like incredible, beautiful things. It's also the place where you see like a lot of flooding, and so there were a couple times we went because it was also January. I don't know if that actually has anything to do with how much water is flooding in Venice, but
the time of year.
yeah, I mean, sure, probably a little bit,
Sure,
but
yeah. Show notes.
yeah, they had to put like little risers out. That was just like wooden panels basically that you just walked along.
Oh,
That was
wow,
pretty
okay.
funny.
Oh, wow. So, and people are just like, okay.
Yeah.
Walk on the planks
Yeah.
or take the wooden paths.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, it was really cool. I'm a huge winter fan. Like, I just really enjoy it. So it's been really nice to be able to like go to places. Also, just I don't know. I feel like a lot of people don't really travel to like super touristy places in winter. That was also part of the class. It was talking about like kind of what makes like a city and like how kind of, I guess, do we like feel about Venice, because it's kind of just like a museum and not like there's not a lot of new sort of like culture coming out of it, and like does that kind of like what does that mean for it, and does that make it like a city still, like even though it's kind of like, is it more of a museum or like more of a place, more of like a city basically, is something we talked about, and that was pretty interesting.
Did anyone from your class talk to people in there, talk to Venetians about their thoughts on like, is Venice just a big museum? Like,
We talked to, there was like a specific woman in a store that I think I also talked to, and less like I didn't want to, like, I don't know, I feel like I was scared to be like, oh, I'm coming here, like, do you think this place is a museum, basically? Because, like, you know, these people, like, that's, like, their livelihood, like, they work in this store there.
It could be, like, definitely a tactful situation.
Yeah, yeah, and it's tricky because, like, it does, you know, like, thrive off of so much tourism, and like a lot of people's jobs are like related to tourism. So I didn't have a specific conversation with anybody, but there was like one guy who talked Italian, who spoke Italian on the trip, and I mean, he mostly just like ordered for us, like he didn't really talk to anybody, but his like grandparents were from like a place really close to Venice. I forget where exactly. Oh, Padua, I think. But yeah, he was funny. I was also like, I feel like you know everything about Venice. Like, it's fun that you're here and you can be our translator, but also like, is this worthwhile for you? Probably. I think he enjoyed it, but.
He had been there, like...
Yeah, he visits every year and kind of like grew up there too. I guess it would be interesting to take a class on like a place that you grew up in. Maybe it will give you a lens that you never really thought about before.
It was like classmate mostly ordering. He could speak Italian. You went to a strange shop with a man.
I did.
And there were masks.
He was, okay, so the conversation, he was like blasting opera music and doing like mask repairs, and I was like, oh my god, like, I love you, like, this is awesome. And so we had assigned readings for like the class, and one of them was like the text and opera. It was like the libretti for Don Giovanni. Yeah. So that was one of the things that we had to read, and like read the play, watch the play, all of it. Musical, opera. People would be mad if I Didn't call it
Call
an
it
opera.
a musical.
Yeah, music. Don Giovanni
They both
the musical.
involved music.
And he was listening to Don Giovanni. It was like one of the things, because I recognized it, and I was like, is this Don Giovanni? And he was like, why do you know that? I was like, oh, well.
I had the readings.
I had the readings, but also I play cello. Like, that. So that was a cute little conversation. Yeah. He was cool. There was also a language barrier. I think I tried to ask how much something was, and like it was just like, I don't even remember, like Quanto Cuesta or something. It's very similar. Maybe that's Spanish. Those Romance languages, it could be anything. Which,
did you get anything from that story?
yes, I got my best friend Sophia this little like blue like creature pot thing. It had a tail and 2 feet and was like a bowl, and yeah, I got that for her, and I think that was it. I like to buy lots of like commemorative things and like give them to everybody ever,
Just as like a way of
being like, this reminds me of you, and also like I'm traveling in this place. Also, like, I feel like for me, like, I always find the best stories and meet like really fun, interesting people when I'm doing something like that, because it's like part of it. Like, I'll give a better example. Last year I went to I was in a Jan term called,
this is Jan term number 3
this
now.
is Jan term number 3.
Okay.
What was it called? Positive Psychology of Scandinavia.
Damn, so specific.
Yeah.
This is Jan term 3?
This is
okay.
Jan term 3.
Okay, I love how diverse the explorations have been.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was in Copenhagen, Stockholm, and then the Arctic Circle. And like the whole time I would just I think I wanted to get like gifts and like things for at least like 8 or maybe like 8 to 10 people I had in mind, and I was like very like deliberate about it. Like, one of my closest friends, I really wanted to find like a really cool old like record of like Swedish synth stuff, and so I went on this hunt in Stockholm and went to like 3 or 4 record stores and asked everybody like, what's the quintessential like record of like cool like synth of like Swedish like jazz, anything, or not Swedish, I guess it, yeah, okay, so I went, never mind, I was on the right track, but I found, okay, in like looking for this record and these records, I landed on one specific record. It was like this like 60s, maybe late 60s, like jazz experimental like thing that was inspired off of Lord of the Rings. And the friend that I was like shopping for had just read Lord of the Rings and was like, this is like the best thing ever. And I was like, okay, yeah, like that has to be it. That's it. So I went on a hunt for the record and then like just talked to cool people and like went on a little exploration for like a whole night of just like hitting up all the record stores ever in Stockholm.
This is like a short film for me now that I'll produce in my imagination, but is really cool.
Yeah, it was really special. And like it was funny because I feel like the first Jan term, the travel Jan term, or the Venice Jan term, was a lot about, I mean, they were both very much like self-discovery and like, you know, all of that, but the first one was a lot more of like, how am I defining myself based off of like this group that I'm in with these people, and it was a lot more of like bonding with the group I was traveling with and like kind of figuring out like things about myself based in like my relationships with all of them, and that was really cool. But the second one was all about like, okay, I feel like I kind of have a more like sound idea of like who I am and who I want to be, and like this is what I'm doing with that. Like it was felt like I was basically solo traveling like the whole time, even though I was like in a class with these people. I wasn't, I mean, I knew them, but I wasn't like, you know, I wasn't in like a group with any of them. If I wanted to do something, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna do this, but like it's a trek and like this is what I'm doing. And so it mostly just ended up being me like just doing solo stuff like the whole month, which was so fun.
Without having to pin it down, though, is there a way that you could talk about like what those two experiences like feel like?
Yeah, I think with like okay, with like the Venice one, it was like fun and but like still comfortable and like something that could be replicated anywhere, kind of. Like it didn't really matter where you were, it mattered like the people you were with. And so like you were having these fun experiences and going out with these people and like doing all of these things with these people, but it also like I don't know, it was harder to connect with like the place itself and be able to like kind of imagine like, oh, if I were to like live here, for example, or stay here for a lot longer time, like what would I be doing? And like what would the things I don't know, like just, yeah, basically what would I be doing? And I think part of that is also just because of like the place that it is also. Like, I don't know, maybe it's trickier to imagine how would somebody stay and like make a life in Venice, because it goes back to the whole like what makes like a city something. Like if there's not something being created from it, like what does that mean for people that are living there and not like, I don't know, not just living there like to live there. I don't know, there's something there. But then I think with like Scandinavia and like doing all of that, it was just I think it helped that I like felt a lot more like, I don't know, like I felt more sound, like I had a better idea of like who I was and like what is it that kind of makes me like happy, and like what I enjoy doing. And so I think it was a lot easier to just like go off and do something and like find so much like enjoyment from just like, I don't know, like doing it and like not sort of having to worry about like, oh, maybe like are other people enjoying this, or like I don't know, it's just like a different type of fun. Like it's fun to go out and to like be silly and be loud and like do stupid things with people, but it's also fun to like just go off and have an adventure and like tell nobody where you're going and like see amazing things and like look at cool art and talk to cool people and like meet people that you otherwise would have like never come across. And yeah, it was really special.
It sounds that way when you say it. It makes me like.
I'm excited for it to get colder.
You talked about winter.
Yeah.
Wintering and vacationing in winter.
I enjoy it. I like the cold. I was born in Ohio, so sometimes I think that there's like some sort of like cold baby gene that I inherited and just like enjoy winters a lot. I really like all seasons, but I feel like winter's kind of slept on. I feel like lots of people hate winter.
I think this is a really fascinating topic. The beauty of winter. But slept on winter.
Slept on winter. I bet Roka has a poem on that.
I would wager. Have you what about planning multiple vacations, future vacations to occur in wintertime?
That would be pleasant.
Would you go that far?
Multiple vacations in like one winter time? Like,
no, like your next, like however many trips that you plan, that you were to just pursue winter, like pursue those vacations but only during their winters.
I would do that. I feel like it's probably cheaper also. But maybe not. I don't know. I just feel I feel like just less people are out. And like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Winters are just fun and like so beautiful and like strange. Like I feel like it's funny that you bring this up.
Yeah.
In the positive psychology of Scandinavia class, one of the days we went to this like cross country ice skating place. Like they do workshops and whatever. There were like 2 French guys and 1 Swedish guy, and we all like they drove us out to this lake and we ice skated on this frozen lake, and it was incredible. It was so fun. They remembered my name just because it was French, and they were French, and I felt really good about that. It was fun.
Was that, you had been ice skating though multiple times growing up in Ohio, or no, not so much?
Not in Ohio, but definitely like ice skating just at like rinks, like growing up. Kind of like rollerblading, but just ice skating around. It was kind of a popular activity, but I never did it that often. But I'm not like terrible. Like I can ice skate around a pond.
So it wasn't the experience of learning to ice skate plus being on a frozen pond at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Just one.
You could navigate.
I could pick and choose. It was cool. They said something that I think about a lot. I was talking to one of the guys on like the drive home, and he was saying how like you can hear there's like a certain pitch when you're like ice skating specifically on like a lake with water underneath it that hasn't fully frozen yet, and you can like hear as the ice gets thinner, the pitch of your like blade going on top of the ice will get higher, and like right before it cracks and you fall in, which is like pretty common occurrence for them apparently, it gets super high, and I thought that was really interesting, like the resonance of ice. I was like, somebody could make a really cool ambient or like some music project out of this.
Yeah.
Like, how do you record that, I wonder?
Oh yeah, and you could do like I was thinking, what if you like drilled like tiny like samples into the ice and then placed like small transmitter mics and then did like a whole field recording for a whole lake.
That would be so cool.
This is the sound of the lake.
I love that. That would be awesome.
I don't know why I really want to just listen to like really loud thundering like ice movements or like glacier sheets moving.
Yeah.
I'm sure people have already recorded that, so note to self, just listen to some glaciers.
Yeah. Well, it was also, so we did that ice lake activity, and then also when we were in the Arctic Circle, I went ice fishing, and like that ice was a lot thinner than the ice that we were on that lake, and you could hear it cracking, and it was just like the booms were just, it was crazy. It was so scary, but also really cool. Like, I don't know, you don't expect it to be so like loud.
Yeah.
They're very loud.
Life with an icing of hummingbirds.
Golden hummingbird icing.
What does it feel like to use your heart?
I feel like this goes back to the like whole like openness with other people, and like how scary it can be to be so like, I don't know if like inviting is the right word, but just like open and like willing to sort of kind of put it all out on the line. Like your true self, or your deepest feelings, or all of it. I think like letting somebody know you, and like yeah, letting somebody like just really in is scary, but also like I probably like my favorite human experience is like that, and just like opening your heart so much. And I think lately I've been like trying to remember that it's not like a bad thing to like care so much, and like it's not a bad thing to be able to, or like to like carry love with you and like want to like put that out in the world, but you just kind of have to, I don't know, like I feel like it's kind of typical to like, you think that that type of love is like only like should be given to like a specific person, but I think lately I've been realizing that you can kind of just give that always and to like everyone, and it doesn't really matter. And like, I don't know, I find so much like joy and purpose when I am able to like, I don't know, show people that I care. And that's been special. Like at the APC farm with the teens, like just doing stuff for them, and like, I don't know, like I wrote them all letters their last week, and just like tiny things like that.
Like a volcano.
Kind of. Like the opposite of a volcano. Like ice.
Top 5 loud nature things.
Ooh.
Ice.
Cicadas. Number 1.
When they're busy, they let you know.
Yeah.
Cicadas are number 1, ice number 2.
Yeah. It's a hard thing to beat. I always have found it would be so interesting to go into a career that just does like all of the special effects for movies, like sound special effects, and just like the sheets of like, I don't know. That stuff is crazy to me. It seems so like fun and just random and weird.
I feel like it would be like being a dancer, but you don't give a public performance.
Yeah. A secret dancer.
Have you ever gotten any like letters that you've kept for a while?
I have a hoard, like a stash of so many letters.
Really?
Yeah. I have letters from middle school. I have, I'm like a huge collector of things, like oddities, like just strange things that speak to me. I have, like a box of, stuff from my grandpa when he passed away. And it's like his glasses, his calligraphy set, and he used to read the newspaper and would cut out like the comic strip in all of the newspapers and give them to my sister and I. So we have a baggie of all of like the old comic strips that he would cut out. I like the underneath of my bed is like filled of baskets that is just like stuff that I've found and collected, and like something will come of it probably. Like I can't just keep hoarding it, and like I guess maybe I can, but I think I can also turn it into something. I have a lot of letters. I was in a relationship for like 2.5 years, and it was long distance, and it was all letter writing. So I have all of those. I have birthday cards from my parents, and yeah, a lot of piles of things.
happy that you kept them, and has there ever been a time in your life where you considered like maybe I should pare down how much I have collected?
Yeah, I think especially with the birthday card ones where it's like, happy birthday, love mom and dad. I'm like, okay, thank you.
That could be your sound effects company. I learned a little bit recently about that, to the extent that it was like someone talking about how like once they studied like sound editing and sound design for films, that like they were specifically talking about like Breaking Bad, that like anytime there's like like anything with like cars or a car chase, they just put in like screeching tires like all the time, and and I was like, wow, I hadn't even noticed. Like, it just subconsciously went in there. But now I'm like, oh, what else is like not a real sound? But I have a feeling it's like, well, it's like 10% on-site recordings and about 90% added in, which is like, oh, movies really are not real, but they're about a different kind of expression that is real.
Yeah. It's so strange. We were talking about that a lot in the like first gen term class, which is like documentaries, especially like nature documentaries.
Yeah.
Like they literally just like create narratives that just don't exist. And like the penguin is gonna be eaten by a polar bear, and like it's not even the same penguin, and they're like, you know, putting in scenes from like 20 different penguins and like 2 polar bears, and it didn't even get eaten. I don't even know. It's just crazy. Yeah, I keep the ones with substantial notes. I have one from my mom on like, I think it was like the first day of my sophomore year of high school. I was really into Scrabble. I still kind of am, but like really into Scrabble when I was younger. And
what is being really into Scrabble? Like, I don't mean to derail you, but I need to know like when it becomes real.
Well, I was in a summer camp. That was a Scrabble. I was in a Scrabble summer camp, and I won. I beat everybody in Scrabble, and they gave me a tiara and called me the Scrabble Queen. And I still have the tiara. It's under my bed.
So that's one way you can know that Scrabble's real.
Yeah, Scrabble is real.
You're still into it.
Mm-hmm. Not as competitively.
I can't remember how we got to the Scrabble from.
A note from my mom. Sophomore year, she wrote me a note that was like, happy first day, but spelled out in Scrabble tiles. I have that. It's on a napkin. It was in my lunchbox.
That's really fucking cool.
Yeah. She's cute.
Is it a brown napkin or a white napkin?
It was a white napkin with red letter.
Ah. Cohesion's been a criteria that you've like felt that you've needed to adhere to in a particular way or for a particular project.
I think like so much of like music is about that, and especially like classical, like it's also structured and like it has to be done, and like even I don't know, like the way you kind of learn how to read and just like play classical music in general is very much like do it exactly how it is on the page, and then like you have a little bit of room to sort of like play with it and like make it your own, I guess. But I don't know. And like also just like with performing with other people, it's like done in a very specific way. That's like, you know, you follow the conductor. Like everybody has to be like locked in, which is cool. And like obviously produces cool, amazing, beautiful things. But sometimes I think like where classical music doesn't really like exactly fit with me is like I think sometimes when I'm like doing anything artistic, I'm like I need this to be like fully me, and it feels like when I'm like playing a piece that somebody else wrote or like doing it in this specific way, it's not fully me because it's somebody else, and like I don't know, like you're able to get at the core of it in like performance and playing because it's like I'm transmitting this almost. But before that, it just is kind of like I'm practicing this and it feels like I'm doing it for no reason, or like it feels like it isn't like, yeah, just like genuine. Like it feels like I'm doing this to master it. It's almost like school. Like I'm doing this to get a good grade. I'm doing it to like be good, and that's it. which I don't really love sometimes.
How are you feeling on energy and time?
I feel good. I'm a little hungry.
Maybe do some kind of like break, and then maybe I did prepare like a list of like 30 questions.
Cool.
Maybe like I could touch on a couple of them.
Okay.
What should we teach children in school from the ages of 6 to 16?
That is such a wide range. How old are you, or what grade are you when you're 6?
First or second grade?
Okay. This is a funny question. I don't think I have an answer from myself, but somebody asked a really similar question in a seminar class, and I read this poem. It's a poem called What You Missed That Day You Were Absent from 4th Grade. It's written by Brad Aaron Maudlin. Mrs. Nelson explained how to stand still and listen to the wind, how to find meaning in pumping gas, how peeling potatoes can be a form of prayer. She took questions on how not to feel lost in the dark. After lunch, she distributed worksheets that covered ways to remember your grandfather's voice. Then the class discussed falling asleep without feeling you had forgotten to do something else, something important, and how to believe the house you wake in is your home. This prompted Mrs. Nelson to draw a chalkboard diagram detailing how to chant the Psalms during cigarette breaks, and how not to squirm for sound when your own thoughts are all you hear. Also, that you have enough. The English lesson was that I am is a complete sentence, and just before the afternoon bell, she made the math equation look easy. The one that proves that hundreds of questions and feeling cold, and all those nights spent looking for whatever it was you lost, and one person add up to something.
That was how you responded in class?
Mm-hmm.
What happened after you read the poem in class?
I don't really remember. I think there was a pause, and then I think we moved on.
Do you remember how you felt when you read it?
A little nervous, but excited, and I love sharing poems with people, especially in unexpected settings, and so it was fun. And also, it was really sweet. I think afterwards, a couple people came up to me and was like, "Can you send that to me?" And that was really awesome. And I feel like I kind of do that quite a bit. In my classes, people are always bringing in things that remind them of stuff in classes, but I feel like oftentimes it's not poetry. It's oh, I read this other book or something. But for some reason, when you bring in poetry, at least for me, it feels like it's that thing again of writing where it touches an essence almost, and less of the thinking but more of the feeling. And so I like bringing that aspect into classes too, and just anywhere. It's nice.
I'm gonna start spontaneously reciting poetry at work.
Yeah.
And just run with it and see how life evolves.
Yeah. So another summer camp, I used to go to the summer camp called Great Books Summer Camp, and it was a 1 to 2 week intensive of reading and writing and analyzing literature, and we had a poetry cup every morning, and we would recite poetry for whoever basically recited the best not best, but most convincing poetry. You could do things with it too, interpretive dance and whatever, just literally anything. Whoever's group had the best and did the most reciting would win the poetry cup. And so that was a big thing.
Why do you think it's been hard for humanity to move past a civilization where war is part of the way that we operate?
I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where, I don't know, it's such a part of history that it's almost ingrained in just this is normal. And I feel like so many people, war happens and so many people just don't even think about how terrible it is and are just yeah, this is something that we have to do. This is something that has to happen. Just because I guess that's how it has happened. I don't know. But I don't like the answer that it's just because like people are used to it, because that sucks. And I don't want to think that people are used to destruction and awful things. That's sad. But maybe that's the answer.
Does human war have a different quality than like another species not getting along? I mean, I don't know to what extent other species like kill each other in large numbers.
Yeah. I know sometimes orangutans kill for no reason. But I feel like with humans, I'm sure also with orangutans and just like mammals in general, it's so like you can see it and it's so graphic also that it just it feels so disturbing. But like maybe if I was also an ant, I would be like, this is horrifying and disturbing.
Oh, wow.
Maybe. Or maybe I would be like, I hate these people and they need to get out of my space.
Is it naive to want the ants to find a way to get their needs met without going to war?
Maybe.
Or like naive to think like, oh, but like sharks, or like there's like a food chain.
Yeah, I don't know. I think with like the food chain, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like things have to eat. Things have to kill to eat. That makes sense. I can get down with that. But like ants warring. I don't know. I wonder why. Like maybe what if some like European like colonizer guy just like came with an ant on a ship and like that's why that's happening? Like what if it was like, or like would they just be fighting because, or like is it a problem because like one species of ant was there before and then like is it part of, I wonder how much of it is like just part of them to fight each other, or if there was foul play on another species' part, or none of that at all.
Oh, fuck. Did an ant ever do another ant dirty? and did the tension multiply?
Perhaps.
It's really hard to say because like we don't know.
We don't.
When you said like earlier when we were talking about how it's like feeling like it's harder to know things, or it's like we don't know things in the way that like with like less certainty. I still can't remember exactly the words you said. This is kind of what I think of, whereas like on one hand I'm like, that's stupid, it doesn't matter what ants do, and then like another part of me is like, but how do you know there isn't like a whole complicated reality that you just can't be in tune with because you're not living on a sized life of an ant. Mm-hmm. And it's like, then I'm like, oh shit, is that important? It feels important, but it also feels like that means like re-questioning everything. Mm-hmm. It's like I can't remember that movie where the guy becomes like a little mini person and like travels inside of his body. It's like I think it's got the guy who is in Lost in Translation, Bill Murray. And anyway, my follow-up question to that was like, would you ever like interview your gut biome?
Oh my gosh, yes. 100%.
No way.
Like emphatically yes.
What questions spring to mind for you on that subject?
Are you guys happy down there? Like, how is it? Do you need anything?
And they speak in a choir back?
Yeah. They sing me songs.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would totally. That would be great. Yeah.
Is there any question that you just have in your mind on a regular basis that is a question that's like important for you at this point in your life that you feel comfortable sharing?
I think I feel like there's kind of a lot. I feel like one of the things that I think about a lot is like, what does it mean to like be authentically me? And like, also what does it mean to be happy? And I think those are the two biggest ones lately in this time period of life.
Are they there every day verbatim? Are they there in like a feeling way?
I think probably in a feeling way. If I can think about them. I don't think I want to think about them every day. Maybe. But sometimes it's necessary. And yeah. I feel like they're also, especially like what does it mean to be me? And like, who am I? That question, that's always like, that's there.
Do you think that's there till you die?
I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe. There was also, like a small snippet that I read somewhere that was also talking about ants. And it was like, humans are, I mean, I'm like totally butchering this and it was much more like poetic and sweet. But it was basically like, humans are the only things, or like people, creatures that are like questioning, like, what does it mean to be them? Like other creatures just wake up and I'm like, I'm an ant today, like I'm gonna do my ant things, but like what does it mean to do a human thing?
Especially when you can specialize in.
Exactly, like you can do anything, but that also means you can do nothing, and that's scary.
How do you get feedback about that question that can be intelligible throughout the different layers of experiencing reality as a human?
I feel honestly like the seminar programs in St. Mary's that like we just read sometimes
awesome.
like old philosophy stuff and then talk about it, and it's really refreshing because like, you know, you're in a group of like 20-something-year-olds and you're all just like, I have no idea what this means, but like here's what I like am questioning, and then you're sort of able to just be like, let's have a discussion about it. And I think that's always nice. But I don't know, it's definitely a strange thing, and it feels like one of those things where not everybody thinks about it as much as I do, and maybe I'm just thinking that because I'm me and like I'm the only one who knows what I'm thinking, but I don't know. I feel like, also, I think from the outside, it probably, like, I do a lot of things, and I think people see that and are like, oh, like, I know what I'm doing. And, like, I know, like, sort of, I don't know, I guess just what I'm doing. But I don't think I know that. And I don't really know if anybody does.
Hummingbird sighting, number 2 out of 5 for August 31st.
This is crazy. And it's crazy too, like they always lately have just been like flying around these trees and then just sitting there. Like you don't often see a hummingbird that's not humming. And that's just kind of
super true.
Out. I think I'm going through a little bit of a spiritual awakening.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
That's a big phrase. I think that's we got the whole rest of the podcast lined up This has been episode number 7 with Desiree Sturrock, Poetry in Unexpected Settings. This was the second part of a 2-part series with Desiree. Part 1 is episode number 6, Invictus CRISPR. To support Popcorn Forest, there is a link tree with links to usual funding channels such as Patreon, Substack, and Ko-fi. You can check out these links at popcornforest.com. Popcorn Forest is an independently and communally produced show. Thanks to everyone who has supported the show financially and creatively so far. Special thanks to Kasseo for their track, and for Etienne for the outro music, and for Native Culture for the beautiful Italian track playing here. Show Notes is going to play out for the rest of the show, so stick around if you want to build context. Otherwise, we hope to catch you in 2 weeks for another episode. Ciao! This is from Birds and Blossoms magazine, and it's on The Hummingbird Heart Rate is Unbelievably Fast by Emily Hahnemann, with fact-checking by Kristen Schrader. Everyone knows how quickly hummingbirds fly, but do their hearts beat just as fast? Hummingbirds are speedy little creatures. Ruby-throated hummingbirds flap their wings at a blurry and tough-to-photograph rate of 50 times per second, and they can achieve a velocity of 90 feet per second in flight. But if everything else about them is so quick, you might ponder, how fast is a typical hummingbird heart rate? How fast does a hummingbird's heart beat? To find an answer and even more interesting info about these little birds' hearts, we turn to the Hummingbird Handbook. Hummingbirds have the largest hearts relative to body size in the entire animal kingdom. Their hearts account for as much as 2.5% of their body weight, author John Shuey writes. That's spelled Shewey. To put that figure in perspective, the human heart accounts for only 0.3% of total body mass. And the hummingbird's heartbeat beats at an astounding rates, typically 500 to 1200 beats per minute, depending on the level of activity. Humans, by comparison, have a resting heart rate of around 72 beats per minute. When ruby throats are really exerting themselves in flight, their hearts race at top speed. This is like a computer CPU. In calmer situations, that rate drops. That's why, although you might not guess from the activity at your feeders, hummingbirds spend most of their waking hours perching or resting. Learn more fascinating facts about hummingbirds. Okay, so there's some hyperlinks. Then we're going to do a section on torpor. How torpor affects hummingbird heart rate. Torpor changes the numbers around too. A Costa hummingbird's heart beats between 500 and 900 times each minute when at rest. When in a torpid state, its heart rate might drop all the way down to 50 beats per minute. It will also slow its metabolism by up to 95%. To conserve energy on cold nights, broad-tailed hummingbirds might enter torpor to stay at an even 54 degrees. Hummingbird metabolism. As you might guess, with a high heart rate comes a high energy burn rate. The Journey North research team at the University of Wisconsin-Madison reports that ruby-throated hummingbirds have the fastest metabolisms not only in the bird world, but also in the whole of the animal kingdom. They can eat up to 3 times their weight in nectar every day. According to the San Diego Zoo, hummingbirds require around 3 to 8 calories per day. This doesn't seem like much at first, but translating that into human terms, it means consuming 155,000 calories a day. Because they eat so much, hummingbirds also have to digest quickly. They can move a spider through their system in less than 15 minutes, 70 times faster than our digestion. To look at it a different way, we would have to eat over 300 quarter-pound cheeseburgers per day to keep us up with the eating habits of hummingbirds if our bodies worked as rapidly as theirs. About John Shuey, he wrote the Hummingbird Handbook, Everything You Need to Know About These Fascinating Birds, published by Timber Press. And about the author, Emily Hahnemann. Emily Hahnemann, or Hannah Mann, is a digital editor for Birds and Blooms. She holds a master's degree in magazine journalism from the University of Missouri, Columbia, as well as an undergraduate degrees in journalism and English. In her spare time, she enjoys researching fun facts about corvids. About the fact-checker, Kristen Schrader, she is now Bird and Bloom's content director. Kristen has been writing about birding and gardening for 17 years. Her writing and editing roles have spanned the print and digital landscape. Although she has traveled to see amazing birds throughout the U.S., Kristen has a dream bucket list bird, the male painted bunting. So right now we're listening to the sound that someone made of a hydrophone going under a frozen lake. And you'll hear